Water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, 4 nations lived together in harmony. But everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all 4 elements, could stop them. But when the world needed him most, he vanished. 100 years passed, and my brother Shelby and I discovered the new Avatar, an airbender named Aang. And although his airbending skills are great, he has a lot to learn before he's ready to save anyone. But I believe Aang can save the world. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of
A Fan's Perspective.
On this episode, guys, we are finishing up our discussion on Avatar: The Last Airbender with a discussion on what I believe is the best season out of the original series.
I think that's a fair statement about Book 3. I don't agree with you, but I understand where you come from. Yeah, I think Book 2 is the best season.
And see, that's a really interesting thing because, like, maybe it's just because of how I watched it originally. I always liked Book 2 the least. Not anymore after rewatching it as an adult. After rewatching it as an adult, I like Book 2 a lot more than Book 1.
If they could have saw my face when you said that, I said, what's wrong with you? But I mean, I understand what you're saying. And yeah, today we're recording this on the day that also the PS5 dropped. So you may be hearing us. The PlayStation conference happened today, so you may be hearing us discuss that at some point. But right now, we're talking about Book 3, Fire, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah. So
and it was
fire.
I give them credit. They titled it correct because it was fire.
Fire for almost all 20 of the episodes were fire.
They said these 12-year-olds won't even know what's about to hit them. We about to drop it on them.
So that's the thing I will say about this season is that, like, it's only technically in the time frame of Avatar. It's less than a year, or maybe roughly a year, since the first season aired. Like since the first season within the storyline. And one thing I will definitely say is that this series shows that if you have to go through some stuff as a kid, it will force you to grow up really, really quick. Because I promise you, I would not know that Katara and Aang are 12 and 13. You would think that they've aged at least to age 15 or 16 or something like that if you didn't know any better.
Even Katara comments on how much Aang has changed since the beginning of the series versus, where they end up.
Yeah. And like it's real almost kind of jarring when you if you do what we did and you binge the series or you do a full series rewatch, how different of a character Aang is. Like, he still has his silliness, but just the carefree attitude that Aang had in season 1 just isn't really there as much in season 3.
Yeah, it's not. Because I feel like in season 1, he doesn't really understand the weight of everything. He doesn't really get it until realistically the end of season 1, and in season 2 it really kicks in that it's a war and there's injustice all over and there's unfair treatment. Like I said, season 2, going through Ba Sing Se, they kind of learn and discover a lot, especially stuff that Aang didn't know about. He just thought we gonna go talk to the Emperor,
the Earth King, and everything is gonna be Gucci.
Everything gonna be good, and then he finds out, well, no, the Earth King isn't really in control. Someone else is in control, and then Azula comes along, and so there's growth. He's forced to grow into the season 3 person that was put to sleep for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
woke up
with hair. Yeah, woke up with the hair. And let's talk about that actually. I guess that was something that I when I say I haven't seen season 3 or honestly watched all of Avatar in its entirety since like maybe 2010. So it's been 10 years since I'd actually sat down and watched all of Avatar again. And I forgot certain aspects. Like, I really did forget that people thought Aang was dead. Like,
Correct.
so with him being gone or reborn into the Water Tribe or whatever they thought,
Just killed in the Avatar state.
yeah, killed in the Avatar state. So some people who know about the Avatar might think that, oh, if that's the case, then the Avatar cycle's completely gone. So that we'll discuss that at a later time. But they that was a really interesting caveat as to why the invasion could technically have worked, in the fact that like people would have just been surprised that Aang was dead. But then again, we as viewers always knew that wasn't going to be the case because #Azula. Like the
What do you mean?
So Azula, we knew Azula knew about the invasion in season 2. Mm-hmm. Like the Earth King told her about it. So obviously she told her dad, and they put in plans for the eclipse well before we get to that episode of the season. They just don't show us. And it shouldn't come to anyone who's watching this as a binger as a surprise. Now, if you're watching this as a kid like I was, where it's 2006 when that happens, and then it's 2007 when the Day of Black Sun occurs, you might completely forget that Azula knew and that they put the Earth King in hiding. But
gotcha.
I mean, not the Earth King, but they put the Fire Lord, the Fire Lord in hiding. But they, if you're watching it and you're just watching it all the way through, you're like, oh, duh, that makes perfect sense. Of course they knew that this was going to happen. Because Azula, as we discussed, is the actual main villain of the series, and she's been kind of conniving and planning. And speaking of which, I will say this season does a very good job at character building overall, but it especially does a good job with Azula, in my opinion.
I agree, it did it overall. Like, Azula was just kind of one of the character that had the least character building, because she wasn't around. I mean, not in this season, but in the previous seasons, right?
Yeah.
So this was some time to play catch up with her.
Yeah, and that's true. So that way you get a lot more of it. But like, I think from her perspective, in season 2, the time you watch her, you're kind of like, wait, she's Zuko's younger sister? Like, they might as well be twins. With 1, she's close to his height. 2, she looks around his age. And 3, like, they don't show anything to show that she is definitely younger and less mature than him. Heck, if anything, she's more. So you're like, oh, this is clearly that they might have wanted to maybe make them twins at some point or something like that. That would have worked out better. But as you're watching the show, you see like, oh no, wait, Azula definitely still has some 14-year-old girl issues, tendencies, like not knowing how to talk to boys, that might need that, like that show that, oh no, she's still, if she's allowed to be a regular kid. And I really like that aspect because it humanized her a little bit more than just, oh, she's this brilliant prodigy at firebending that's unstoppable because she's also a genius mastermind when it comes to military planning. And while she technically is both of those things, she also has a lot of flaws. And in this season, they showed those flaws.
Yep. I agree. They humanized her character in this season. Like you said, in the previous season, you see she's this genius. I don't know if they described her as a psychopath.
Zuko does.
Yeah, but she was identified, like they were able to, I watched someone's video and they were able to identify like the exact traits that make up Azula's personality. And it's like she's a genius, but she's also, I don't want to say psychopath, so I'm not going to say that. But she comes off as a robot, right?
Yeah.
And in doing so, when they are put into a normal situation, you get to see how awkward she is, but she's still kind of like a dominating force. So she's just like, "You're gonna be mine," and blah blah blah, and like
Yeah.
the boy gets scared of her and
Yeah. Oh, it
disappears.
instantaneously. Like
Yeah,
as soon as she goes, like, we're going to become the most powerful couple in the world. She like the
yeah.
old dude dips. He's like, nah, I'm good, fam.
He's like, yeah, I'm out. Have a good one. You take it easy. So yeah, all of the characters, Zuko got amazing character development.
Well,
Uh,
Zuko has arguably, thanks to this season, one of the best redemption stories in media.
yeah, he has the best arc for
Yeah,
sure.
he
You
he's
watch the
he,
story.
he's his arc is even better than Aang's in my opinion because
Um,
Aang develops as a like he realizes he has to live up to become a true Avatar, but
mhm.
Zuko pulls a Vegeta better than Vegeta.
You're not wrong, not at all. Yeah, Zuko becomes. That's the thing about this show, right? There's so many characters that you can get behind because they're so well fleshed out. And as well as Aang being introduced in episode one, Zuko was introduced in episode one. But like we were saying, Zuko has the greatest character arc from learning to, Avatar and Zuko and Azula story specifically shows. I was just kind of talking about this with somebody the other day. The effects that your parents can have on you,
Yep.
and how family trauma is passed down or family dynamics are passed down, and where Zuko kind of thrived, learning from his mother, Azula thrived learning from her dad and kind of reveling in that side
I,
of the family.
it's not even necessarily a thrive. It's just I feel like because I was watching a video about this too that like Ozai, Fire Lord Ozai, just kind of viewed Azula as a prodigy and only that, and a means to an end more than his
Well,
actual daughter. At least in my opinion, that was the
I don't
case.
I don't think it was a means to an end. I mean, she literally became his successor, excuse me. So, like he was like you next in line and he trusted her to do stuff that he didn't trust anybody else to do. So he did care for Azula, but he rewarded her for negative behavior. And Azula thought that was normal because that's how the family did it. And so she became this evil or I don't care about anyone else type of person because that's how her dad was. And that's like her dad was the ideal, her dad was the top of the top. He was the Fire Lord. She even you would listen in on conversations between her dad and her mother, and she just that's the personality she took on because of him. To where Zuko, I don't want to say spent more time with his mother, but he saw kinder aspects from her.
Well,
And
I think with his mom, the video that I saw was talking about like their mother had to like care more about Zuko in the fact that like Ozai was awful to him his whole life. Like Ozai was never a good dad to Zuko.
mhm.
So because Zuko was too kind-hearted, he was too much like Iroh, and
Yeah,
that
but even that kind of goes to show, in my opinion, that Zuko was still more like his mother because he wasn't like, okay, well my dad is like this, I'm gonna try and be more like this. I mean, I get it, he was a kid, but Azula was more so like, my dad is like this, I'm gonna try and be more like this, or I'm gonna shape myself after that, to where it affects her that, you know, kind of skipping ahead a little bit, her mother's being kind of affects her because she is the opposite of her mother, and she
yeah.
feels like her mother didn't love her.
Yeah, like
And
even
uh,
on the beach, which is the episode where we're talking about like like Azula not being able to be a relationship and everybody getting to be a kid for once. We'll talk about the beach in a little bit more detail later on. Azula openly admits like my own mother thought that I was a monster, and then she immediately goes, "Well, she was right, of course, but still hurt."
see, and they acknowledge it, but you see that psychologically scarred her.
Yeah,
And again, I think I was just having a conversation with someone about the psychological effects of parenting and how one way or another you're going to scar your children, right? It's going to happen one way or
without
another.
without intentionally meaning to do so.
Correct. But every parent scars their child in some way, shape, or form. It could be over some food, or it could be over a certain action. And it's just interesting to see how Azula's mom only ever loved her, and that still kind of scarred her in some way.
Yeah.
So yeah, psychologically, Azula, like you said, was her character development this season was great because even with her having probably the less screen time of any of the main characters, you're like, oh, not only do I like her, not only do I understand where she's coming from, not only is she like the most evil person in the show, but I feel for her.
Yeah, by the end of it, you're like, yeah, no, Zuko needs to beat her. Like when they had that Agni Kai, you're like, nah, Zuko needs to win this because Azula is truly just like you hate her, but you love to hate her. So she needs to be stopped. But at the end, when she just breaks down because she lost to Zuko and all of her friends have betrayed her and everything like that, like it definitely feels a lot more you just almost feel kind of bad for her because like dang, she worked this hard to get to where she is and she's done all these things and she's still gonna have to deal with these issues even being locked up in prison.
Yeah.
I know she escapes or gets out or something like that in the comic books. We can talk about that. Like
there you go.
We can talk about that later when we're done talking about season 3. But moving on to other characters, but let's stick with the Fire Nation royal family for a bit. Shell, what did you think about Fire Lord Ozai? Because this is the main big bad of the show. He's the guy that Aang's got to beat. He's the dude that burnt his own son as a show of discipline. He's done all these things that are unquantifiably evil. Like he basically like killed his own father to make sure that he became Fire Lord. The dude is awful. Mark Hamill does a great job voicing him, but the dude is awful.
Good old Joker.
But at the same time, what do you think of him as a villain? Because I feel like, and as I've said, I feel like Azula is the true villain of the show.
I think so. I think this argument is how can I explain it? I think this argument is not the proper argument. So, ladies and gentlemen, to kind of lead you into what CJ is asking a little bit, the consensus, or I'd say it's somewhat split. You have people that kind of look at the show in a deeper meaning, and you kind of have the people that look at the show on the base level, right? Like heroes, villains, antagonists, protagonists, that type of deal. So people will say as an antagonist, Fire Lord Ozai is not really a good antagonist. To where me and CJ were saying Azula is like a great antagonist, right?
Yeah.
All of that though is kind of set into motion by the Fire Lord. Like Ozai represents to me not an antagonist, but he represents everything that Aang is fighting against and trying to change. And that is reflected in the ending of their fight because ultimately Aang has to force Ozai to change. It's not something that he can talk through. It's not something that, he wasn't going to kill him. I mean, spoiler alert, but not really spoiler alert.
13-year-old show. Just saying.
Yeah, true. It is past the limit. So I don't think Ozai was really meant to represent a I'm gonna get political. Is it okay if I get political?
Yeah, get political. Get political. Go ahead.
Ozai isn't really meant to represent an antagonist, but rather the system that is broken. So, for example, if this was real life, in comparison to everything kind of going on in the world right now, yeah, you can go to, the very top of the chain. You can go to the White House. And let's say we removed everyone that works in the White House right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would not then, that would change something. But as you go down into the individual levels of the system and what makes up the system, that might not necessarily change. So that's what Ozai represents to me. He doesn't really represent a villain because he was the Fire Lord. There was no way they were just going to walk in and be like, "Hey, Fire Lord, I challenge you to an Agni Kai," and that was never going to happen. The whole system kind of had to be changed, and that taking down Ozai was the first step of that, in my opinion.
Okay.
Not that he was like just this major villain and he's going to destroy the world. Like, no, he had an empire and he directed that empire. And then once he was defeated, Zuko was allowed to come through and kind of make changes. But as is explored in the Avatar lore, that don't even go over as smoothly as it's not like a regular cartoon. Like everybody just don't flip their switch and be like, you know what? That new Fire Lord, like a lot of people liked Fire Lord Ozai and they wanted the Fire Nation to rule. You
Yeah,
know,
that's something we see in the first few episodes of the series is that there's a lot of propaganda in the Fire Nation. Like, there's a lot of propaganda. It might as well be something out of. It might as well be like an example of kind of what a totalitarian society would look
the
like.
the victors write the history.
Yeah, and like, but the thing is, the people of the Fire Nation didn't hate the Fire Lord. They didn't hate the system that was going on. They wanted to continue to support it. So you definitely have this moment of not necessarily, not necessarily where not clarity, but you have this moment of of kind of learning, oh, wait a minute, just because I want to beat this person or we as a collective want to beat this person doesn't mean that things are just going to be hunky-dory wherever we go. We're going to have to change. We're going to have to change some people's minds and hearts in this process.
Yeah,
And
oh, go ahead.
And I think that's kind of what's explored more in the comic books, if I'm not mistaken.
Not exactly, but it comes up.
Okay.
And like I said, the Fire Nation themselves was more of a antagonistic force than Ozai. Ozai was just the head of that. He was but again, like I said, I don't really like that argument to say he was a bad villain because this was passed down to him, you know? And even Iroh was on that path before his son died. Like there was passed down from Fire Lord
from Fire Lord Ozai, and he got passed down to him from Fire Lord Sozen. Which, speaking of, kind of brings us to another thing involving the Fire Nation royal family. My favorite episode of Avatar is the Avatar and the Fire Lord. It always has been. It always will be. That is the episode.
It's a great episode.
It's the episode when you learn that Avatar Roku and Fire Lord Sozen were best friends, and you also learn that Roku is Zuko and Azula's grandfather.
Yeah.
Yep. Which, or maybe great grandfather. I think
it's a grandfather, because their mom was his daughter.
Are we sure about that? Because Sozen is their great grandfather.
Then yes, great grandfather.
Okay.
You're correct.
Okay. But yeah, so you learn that they're the descendants of both the Avatar and the Fire Lord, which is nuts. And but you also see what is a key factor in the Avatar lore, because that's another thing about this season. This season almost sets up a lot of like Avatar lore in general that pulls into Korra. You see how previous avatars influence the next avatar, if that makes sense. Because in this episode, you saw that Roku, by showing restraint for his best friend and not beating him and killing him when he had the chance, kind of led to the war starting. And by that fact, that influenced what Aang had, Aang had to rectify what Roku did in a way that would hopefully not go against his morals. But also, it showed that Aang like Roku's lesson was almost you have to be decisive and you cannot be passive in your actions. And Aang luckily becomes a decisive avatar once like everything kind of is said and done, but you kind of see how he's still being impacted by what Roku did in the past, even though it was 100 years ago.
Yeah, it goes into kind of the whole Avatar reincarnation theory and how the traits of the previous Avatar may differ. Like, it may affect the next one's traits, I guess, if that makes sense. Which is all very interesting.
Yeah, so I love that episode. I think it's a great reveal because it further.
It's an excellent reveal.
Because the way they set it up, you're just watching it this whole time, and Zuko's like, okay, you wanted me to learn about the history of my grandfather, my great grandfather. He died of old age and a conqueror. Like, what do you need me to know? And Iroh just hits him with like, nah, fam.
Your other one.
The Avatar. Like, you can rectify this schism in the history of the Fire Nation. Because that's really what happened, is that like things went bad because there was a schism between the two biggest powers in the Fire Nation, the government and the current like protector of the world that was a Fire Nation representative.
Right.
But that's just stuff that happens in the first and what is also funny is to me is that happens in the first like 5 or 6 episodes of the season. Because I remember that for some reason I remember that happening way later on, but clearly my memory was bad and it betrayed me. So, kind of pushing forward from there, Shell, what are some other things about this season that you liked, or some things that you think maybe could have been done differently if you had to pick?
I don't know about differently, because it wouldn't be Avatar without the way it played out.
True.
Like going into the character development, I thought Sokka had some great character development.
I agree. Sokka's character development. I think he might be number 2 behind Azula as far as like Zuko, number 3 behind Azula and Zuko as far as like the biggest character.
Him and Katara both had, because the blood bending episode was this season or last season?
That was this season too.
Yeah, that Katara went to some dark places this season, which I love.
So the thing about bloodbending, and we can get into this a little bit, and I get that it aired on Nickelodeon. I get that it's a kids show.
Yeah.
But like, this is easily like one of the most powerful subsets of bending that we've seen in this show. It is a power system that basically makes it so you can beat anybody. Katara can beat Toph now if she wants to. And she doesn't want to do it because she doesn't want to go down this path, and it seems like bloodbending is this evil thing. And in my head, I'm just kind of like, well, you guys are at war. You need whatever you can to win this fight. I don't see what's wrong with this.
Well, 1, she can only do it when it's a full moon.
True.
2, yeah, I would be with it. I'd be like, nah, it's full moon now, cuz I'm gonna need you to put the bread back, or we're gonna have some problems. Well, I ain't putting no bread back. I'm gonna fight up. Yeah, no, I get it. Even that episode with that old lady goes to show how it's about vengeance, right?
Yeah,
and how
her whole arc is about vengeance, honestly.
Yeah, being in prison turns you dark, and you come to hate your captors. And then for Katara, it was just kind of cool to see. Again, it's cool they threw that in there, and it's a new subtype of bending, and you just like, wow, there's still this magic system still has room to grow, because you say your blood is mostly water. So
yeah,
I'm about to blood bend you, and I think also the episode with her and Zuko, right?
Yeah.
Where they go to get revenge on the guy that killed her mother.
Which happens on a full moon, so she ends up bloodbending a lot of people in that episode. Like, this is when this is when Katara does go dark.
Yeah. And it's good. It's great. Oh my God, the development again coming from season 1, because Katara was a child too, and childish in season 1, and so now you get to this point where she's looking. I like that episode. Do you remember that guy's name?
The commander of the Southern Raiders.
Yeah, the guy that she goes to kill.
Let me look it up real fast.
Well, this episode, I don't know if you noticed, and maybe you might have to go back and watch it again. It's literally shot from his point of view. It's not shot in the normal.
Parts of it are shot from his point of view.
Yeah. But he is shot as a normal person.
Yeah,
You get to see his life from his perspective. He's not shot as a villain in this episode.
Yeah,
he's shot as someone that he lives with his mom. You know, his mom's annoying. He's old. He's kind of worn down. He just wants to grow vegetables in his garden. So you're shown this picture of him because we never saw him when he was in the war. You know,
right?
You're shown how, again, like you said, Katara's character arc is about vengeance and how war is a cycle of people doing things that are bad to other people. I mean, I'm sorry to say it in a simple way. And she finally gets a chance to take her revenge, and she, chooses not to, because if she did, it would kind of send her down a path that honestly would have been interesting to see. But
his name's Yon Ra. Yon Ra.
Yeah, him. So Zuko's like, oh, if you want vengeance, I could take you to him. I'm all about mothers, and getting revenge for mothers. So her turning the rain into ice.
Yo, that was nuts. When she basically she stops the rain entirely.
Yeah, she stopped the rain and then turns it in, and just showing her mastery of water bending and how easily she could kill this person, and then she chooses not to. Greatness.
Yeah, and the funny thing about that episode though is like the cool part about these episodes is like there's themes and moments that you definitely remember, but there's also things that you forget. That episode was also the episode where Zuko saves everyone from Azula.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the moment when everyone's like, okay, we Zuko has really redeemed himself in our eyes, except
finally.
for Katara.
Because we didn't really talk about it last episode, but he had a chance. He was kind of redeeming himself in season 2.
Yeah,
he went back and chose his family.
He had gone good. He like I said, Zuko saved Appa, made a good decision, and immediately got sick. And then then from there, when Azula's like, come back and restore your honor, which honor's another big thing in this season, because both Aang and Sokka are like, I need to redeem my honor at some point of this season. They do. He betrays everyone. He betrays Iroh and goes back and attacks Aang. And then in this season, he completely redeems himself by saving everyone on multiple occasions. He saves them from the assassin that he sicked on them. Let's be real. Zuko is the reason that Combustion Man exists, who we never get a full description on how combustion bending works. Even in Korra, we never get
well
comics.
No, there are some brief explanations into it, but it's a subtype of firebending.
It's a subtype of firebending that's insanely strong and insanely powerful, and
there are some key hints if you pay attention to that episode. But again, it didn't need to be explained. It's just it's a special form of bending.
True, you're right. It's just like metal bending or blood bending or lightning bending. It just is something that certain firebenders are capable of doing at some point. And then let's see. Another thing that I want to get to before we get to like the Sozen's Comet's finale, because that whole 4-part episode needs to be kind of its own thing. I noticed 2 things with this season. One, they stepped up the choreography even more in this season, as far as like the fight scenes and just showing certain things. Because like the firebending, I think it's called the Firebending Masters, when Aang and Zuko go to learn firebending from the dragons. It didn't hit me that when they are doing the Dance of Dragons while the 2 dragons are flying around them, the dragons are literally mirroring their movements. So when an Aang goes high, the dragons go high. When they go low, they go low. When they turn, you see them sweep around them.
More so, they were mirroring the dragons.
Yeah. it is just such an awesome thing to see, like, it unfold. Like, that animation was amazing. And, like, you see moments like that throughout the series from that point on. Like, in the Day of Black Sun, when Zuko attacks his dad, you see him redirect lightning for the first time, and that in and of itself is an amazingly animated moment because of just how smooth the whole process is. And you see kind of what went into that animation at that exact moment, and how I guess impactful of a scene that is, because it just looks bigger than other parts of that episode. But then also when Azula is trying to distract Toph and Aang and Sokka and just run from them and like kill time during the eclipse, like she's doing a bunch of stuff that shouldn't be like, that is really, really intricate, but really, really cool at the same time. The thing about Avatar that I've definitely noticed is that no frames, it's not pulling a Dragon Ball Z. We're not seeing the same attacks over and over and over again. We're seeing every single movement is choreographed and picked to look a specific way.
Right.
And then the other thing that I noted about this season is that right before things get heavy, you always have some really funny comedy episode. Like, it's almost a guarantee. Like right before Day of Black Sun, you get that episode where Aang can't sleep, and he just keeps having nightmares about like the Fire Lord, about attacking the Fire Lord, but he's not wearing any pants, and he randomly has different hairstyles. And then like he has this hallucination where Appa and Momo are talking, and they square up in samurai outfits. That is amazing. That is great. Amazing. That is fantastic.
It needed to happen, though.
It did need to happen.
It's almost, perfection is a hard word to use, but it's perfect because, again, it's keeping you engaged, right? You're not just like, man, this is so intense, this is so dark right now. Like, there's a light to it. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and even if Aang can't concentrate, the show is showing you like, hey, here's some joy still. Like, things like this are what make this Avatar because we can sneak in some comedy right before the season finale,
Yeah, the Ember Island Players, a whole recap episode that is just pure comedy.
It's comedy, but it's one of the greatest recap episodes ever. It was like, what happened to Jet?
Did Jet just die? It was left up to interpretation, which again, all the fans are like, wait, is Jet dead? Because like you don't die. Yeah, we know he died, but they never actually explicitly say it in the show.
Never showed back up. He's dead. That's what that means.
But then they do other stuff where like Sokka, like they make fun of the fact that Katara is always talking about hope and is always super positive when everyone else is sad, and that Sokka's always joking about meat. These are things that they actually do. And then then the best joke in my opinion is like how everyone's just so upset with how their character is portrayed in the show, and then Toph's character is legitimately a buff man, and she's like, this is amazing. And then again, at the very end of the episode, it shows like everyone losing. It shows them losing to Azula and to the Fire Lord, and the Fire Nation winning in that play, and it brings you right back to the seriousness of the season, where it's just like, holy crap, this is still something that they do have to worry about.
Yep, we got to win this war still.
But yeah, so now that we've talked about all of that, we could talk about the Day of Black Sun, because in my opinion that's one of the better animated episodes of the series. And it's a key moment in the show. And I guess actually I do want to ask you this question, because it's not the finale, but it's a key battle. And one of my friends asked me this a couple weeks back, and I didn't really have an answer, but I do now.
Oh, I like questions.
Which would you pick? Day of Black Sun, which is the Eclipse episode, or Battle of the Bastards from Game of Thrones?
TJ?
Yes?
I'm gonna go with Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah, I had to go with it too.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna go
had
with
to go
Battle.
with it too, just because.
But that's not a. I don't think that's a good comparison.
So I didn't think it was originally, but when I thought about it, it's not the final battle. It's kind of a conclusion to an arc. It sets up the next season.
CJ,
Yes.
I don't think that's a fair comparison. I think you are. I think that easily goes to Game of Thrones. And I think that to put Avatar in that spot, yes, Avatar is overall a greater show than Game of Thrones, but they're playing two different games. They're
That's true. That's true.
one is golf and one is tennis. And to compare one of the best episodes of Game of Thrones,
if not the best episode of Game of Thrones,
to this episode of Avatar, I don't think any individual episode of Avatar is gonna take it. But overall, yeah, I could say Avatar takes it as an overall complete story. But then again, you got to include Korra.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do.
No, you don't. Avatar, in and of itself, is outside of the cliffhanger they leave you on at the very end. The Last Airbender is its own story. The Last Airbender is its own complete story.
Technically, it's not because we deal with previous avatars and we have to deal with the avatar after that.
Yeah, but it's
all one story.
Yeah, but it's still separate. It's still separate, Shelby. It's separate.
Zuko, Katara, Toph, they're all in Korra. So you have to. This
is a big debate amongst the fandom, by the way. People openly debate this all the time.
I get what you're saying, but I'm saying if we're going to say, I would take Avatar overall as a series. Yeah, better than Game of Thrones, but individual episodes, Game of Thrones has some bangers, and Battle of the Bastards is a banger, obviously.
Yeah, like you said, it's one of, if not the best episodes. I went with Battle of the Bastards too. I just wanted to ask the question because it was interesting. But now, I do want to discuss the series finale of The Last Airbender and kind of what happens afterwards. Because, as you said, the story doesn't really stop with Sozen's Comet. It doesn't. If you want to get into it, there's plenty more to dive into. But as a series finale, I would say Sozen's Comet, all 4 episodes, because it's 4 different parts, is one of the most complete series finales that you can get.
Excellent.
We've talked about endings before, and they nailed it. And as far as wrapping up the story, giving us an epic battle, even though technically it's one-sided in both ways. There's really no back and forth between Aang and Ozai, in my opinion. It's more of, before the Avatar state, Ozai is giving it to Aang. And then after the Avatar state, Aang is giving it to Ozai.
Well, you got to remember there were 2 final battles going on
at that
time.
The Azula Zuko battle is amazing. That is easily my favorite fight in the entire show. Because also, they changed up the music whenever they would fight. When that fight happened, it starts off with Azula just launching a massive wave of blue flames at Zuko, and him using his flames to part the wave.
Split it. Yeah,
and just move it away. It is, oh my god, that fight is so good. But yeah, literally, it's nothing but fire until Katara gets involved. But I also just liked the manhandling that was watching Avatar State Aang just demolish Ozai.
Yeah.
It's such a...
That rock hit him in the back.
Dog.
Yeah.
It unblocked those chakras, and then I guarantee you, Avatar Kyoshi was like, all right, I'm taking over your body. Let me do this. Ozai, we about to scrap. But yeah, so... Overall, the thing about it that also makes it such a good series finale is because it's still it has a beginning, middle, and end as just a season finale. Because it starts off with the dilemma with the dilemma of the fact that Aang is a monk and has been told, "Hey, we don't kill."
Well, that was his character arc,
right? Yeah, but it's not really addressed until that episode. Like Aang,
Well,
Aang openly is like he doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to like be offensive. He mainly is a defensive fighter, but it's not addressed that like the only thing he can do at this point is literally kill Ozai.
Yeah.
Until
Yeah.
this episode.
No, I mean, but it is a moral dilemma. Like, how do you stop this person that won't be stopped? It's on the most powerful day. Like, it's on Sozen's Comet. It makes all the firebenders like, what was it? 10 times stronger.
10 times stronger.
Yeah. So he's gonna be stronger, and I have to defeat him. What do I do? Kill him. Kill him.
Literally, that is all Zuko says. Like, you gotta kill him. There's
even you know,
even, and Sokka. Yeah, even Sokka. Like Sokka and all the previous avatars are like, you gotta kill him. There's no other option.
Yeah, and what makes that so interesting is the previous Airbender avatar was even like, well, you got to put the world before yourself.
Yeah, you know? Like she should have says as a airbending airbender avatar or someone from
and Aang was hoping
nomad.
She'd understand.
Yeah, she did. She was like, yeah, like the airbending nomads had reached enlightenment by trying to believe that all life is sacred and detach themselves from the mortal world when they need to. And focus on being more spiritual and more peaceful. But she was like, as the Avatar, you can't do that.
Right. Yeah. She was like, she said the world comes before you, and Aang was just hurt. He was crushed.
He was crushed.
Luckily, he met a lion turtle.
Which, if you go back and listen to some of our previous episodes, that when I was younger, our cousin and our mutual friend of the show, Chris, he watched the season finale with me, and he was like, oh, watch, he's gonna get some kind of ancient mystical power to set everything right, and like it's gonna come out of nowhere. And like for a long time, that always kind of sat with me, and I was like, well, maybe he's not wrong. The lion turtle kind of is just randomly shows up, but it turns out lion turtles get brought up, I believe, in season 2. Like there's a mural of a lion turtle that Aang just mentions. I think it might even be in Omashu. But there's a mural of the lion turtle that he brings up, and they're these mystical beings that no one really thinks exist anymore. And
yeah, lion turtles are like gods.
And this lion turtle comes to Aang at his time of need because Aang is pure of heart.
Yeah, I still don't 100% know about this one, but I mess with it.
It worked. It worked.
So, would you like to know a fun fact? I don't know if you know this. That lion turtle is one of the 4 lion turtles that used to have a city on his back.
Really? No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's the fire. He's the fire lion turtle, I believe, or the earth one. He's one of those lion turtles from Avatar 1. Yeah.
Wow, that's nuts. That is nuts.
They had some decent callbacks in the future.
They do.
But yeah, so like you said, it has a good 3-act structure. And again, facing that dilemma, what is Aang gonna do? And like you were saying in the fight, he didn't really have a conviction because he didn't know how he was going to handle it. So he's kind of getting tossed around.
He's putting up a fight to live. He's not dying, but he's also not really putting up a fight. And then Ozai's winning.
The Avatar state kicks in, and like you said, he destroys Ozai and realizes that he can energy bend because the lion turtle kind of told him how and gave him the ability to do so.
But the way that he does it is also it's not just like, Aang's just using some random technique that he just got. No, he sets it up using the earth sensing technique that Toph taught him. To do it.
When he
did
the seismic sense.
Yes,
the seismic sense to see my man
Ozai took a huge step on the ground. Aang felt it and immediately just kicked his hand up, locked his arm in, and then locked the rest of his body. That was awesome.
Yep. And my man, they had an internal struggle that was between red and blue.
Red almost won, but blue pulled it out at the last second.
Last second, yep. Aang sealed away his bending.
Yeah, and that was such an interesting idea because in my head, when I was younger, I didn't know how he wasn't going to kill him. In my head, I was like, it's Nickelodeon. They can't kill him. How are they going to do this? Sealing his bending.
Throwing him in prison would have been the answer, but
I mean, Iroh broke out. Why wouldn't he be able to?
I mean, you're not wrong, but by the time that happens, the Fire Nation will belong to Zuko.
True. But either way, this was a much more effective way of doing it, in my opinion. And
neutralize him, yes.
Yeah, and I just think that it really, really worked. It fit Aang's personality, and obviously it sets up for later it sets up for Korra in ways that we will discuss it sets up for the ending of season 1.
Jesus Christ, Korra.
For people who don't know, right now, because Avatar is back on Netflix, there is a massive just like schism amongst the Avatar fandom online right now about whether or not the sequel series Legend of Korra is good.
It is good.
It is good.
That's not the problem. The problem, and we'll talk about this later. The problems that Korra have is it's
a different series than The Last Airbender.
Well, if it leaves you feeling incomplete, and it in some instances it disrespects the source material, and in others it expands upon it. But you can tell that it did not have all of the time, love, and care that the original series had. You can tell that, and I call this the old white guy theory. You can tell that someone was like, "Oh, this makes profits. Let's make more of it."
Yeah, and we'll get into all of that when we talk about Korra in a couple of weeks.
Hey, you brought it up. Brought it up.
No, yeah, I know. But I want to roll it back before we get into that discussion. Because
we're not done talking about this season finale because again the character arcs are completed.
Yep.
Toph kind of if I recall, she does reconcile with her parents, right?
Actually, she kind of comes to terms with things just by like randomly talking with Zuko when Zuko doesn't have she jokes like she wants to go on this this life-changing field trip with Zuko because she's the only one who hasn't had the chance to do it, and she doesn't really get to do it because they have to go. They're worried about finding Aang, but she talks everything out in her head where she's like, "Oh, I guess maybe my parents actually did care. They were just too worried. They were just too worried about me."
I could have sworn it was something.
I watched it last night. They don't really reconcile the whole Toph parental issue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's one of the few things they don't reconcile, but they do reconcile Sokka's plans never working out because he actually is part of the reason that they're able to do everything. And then they also reconcile General Iroh retaking Ba Sing Se and the whole mystery surrounding the White Lotus.
Mm-hmm.
And my God, old people in this show are either terrible or they're amazing.
Yep.
And these old people in the Order of the White Lotus are literally gods in Avatar.
And then they were all people that you kind of met before.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, it was Zhang Zhang. It was not Avatar, Master Pakku from the Northern Water Tribe, who is now Grandpa Pakku to Sokka and Katara. It's Boomy, who during the eclipse was like, "All right, I can escape and take my city back. This will take me 5 minutes." And Sokka's sword master. I forget his name at the moment, but it was all of them, and then it was General Iroh. Those are the 5 people that we saw. And between Zhang Zhang and Iroh, using Sozen's Comet, they basically wipe everyone out. Like, you see Pakku and Sokka's master going in, and you see Boomy doing some serious work too. Boomy does this one thing where he basically takes all these Fire Nation tanks and flips them all on top of each other to make this massive tower, and that he single-handedly wipes out a whole fleet.
Classic Boomy.
Yeah, classic Boomy. But it's Zhang Zhang and Iroh that that wipe out the rest of the Fire Nation, in my opinion. They take back Ba Sing Se like it's nothing. And like you would think that would have been a harder struggle, but it just wasn't. Like, it's just like, all right, these 5 people that we've shown you throughout the show, they're going to wipe the floor with everyone. And it's awesome to watch. And it's not like that's something that came out of nowhere, because Boomy openly says, I'm the strongest earthbender that you're ever going to meet. This is before we see Toph. And that's the truth. We all know that Iroh is the Dragon of the West, and everyone says he's this amazing firebender when he actually cares. And he spent the first half of the season getting buff and
to be fair, he always was an amazing firebender throughout the series.
He was. It's just we never saw him go in like this. We knew Zhang was great, and we knew that Pakku was great. So, like, these are people we've seen do amazing things, and they just continue to do it. And then finally, as we've discussed, the second final battle, which in my opinion is the better final battle, Zuko faces Azula, and although he sacrifices the victory to save Katara, he wins.
Yeah.
Like, he wins. He beats Azula. And I don't care who you are, Azula lost that Azula, like, had to resort to cheating to actually win. And it was stressing her out.
To be fair, I won't say he 100% win. I would say he was going to win, because they got, he was like, why don't you use your lightning? You afraid I'll redirect it? And she was already kind of unhinged.
Yeah, that's true.
And she just sees Katara and is like, I'm going to take her out instead. And Zuko blocks it. So, it shows his growth and how far he's come, because it's not just about restoring honor or becoming the next Fire Lord to him. Like, Katara is important and she's worth protecting.
Yeah. So overall, it's such a great fight. And then Katara herself ends up beating Azula by strategizing and using, for the first time, a technique that is kind of wild when you see it. She basically just freezes both of them, and then she uses her own breath to melt the water and manipulate everything within the ice. And Azula can't do anything about it because she's so caught off guard. And
their power is fire, so she can't
just bend it when there's just water and ice all around it. So it works out. And then Katara finally uses her healing technique on Zuko. It's the first time she actually does it. But she's able to save his life, and they reconcile as friends instead of what a lot of people have been hoping as a relationship.
And this isn't like those dumb Naruto shippers that be like, oh, Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura shouldn't have ended up together. This is actual, like, or no, Naruto and Hinata shouldn't. Like, this one should have happened.
I don't know, man. I think Aang and Katara is fine. I don't have any issues with it. I don't have any issues with it. They set it up pretty well.
Yeah. But her and Zuko, it's something about their chemistry to where it worked out. It would have to a lot of people, like it's a lot of people that feel this way.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of Zutara shippers.
Their chemistry was a lot better than her and Aang's. Like, her and Aang, yes, they had love for each other, and it was kind of like brother sisterly, and maybe it's explored more in the books. But her and Zuko, for them to be in the positions that they were in, to them both losing their mothers, to them, him taking her on that journey of vengeance. They just, even them being together in the last fight, you can kind of tell that it seems like the writers were like, maybe this might be a thing, and to have a Water Nation and Fire Nation kind of alliance would have been interesting.
Yeah, it would have been really, really cool. I don't know. I think maybe if they had done the fourth season that's always been rumored, or if they had done the adult Avatar season that everyone had kind of been hoping, that like people have been saying they've wanted for a while now, like we could have seen more of like how Aang and Katara's relationship would work out. But I mean, I just think that I don't have as much of an issue, but I do agree with you that it could have been fine. That Zuko and Katara could have also worked out.
I'm not like I'm not like disappointed like that him and Katara ended up together, but ultimately, from what you see in Korra, it doesn't really matter. Like, it does not really matter that they got together in any form, shape, or way. To where if it would have been Zuko and her, then it kind of, it could have went different routes. I feel like, but it is what it is. What do you think? Well, no, I guess Sokka ended up with
Suki. Sokka stayed with Suki. There's always this rumor that maybe Sokka and Toph got it on,
hooked up.
But at the same time, that really makes some things that happen in Korra very, very strange and weird. So that does not occur. Tenzin and Lin dated for several years before, like, that would have made them cousins. And this is Nickelodeon. This isn't Game of Thrones. This isn't like Japan. So let's pull
there's
that
some
back.
China in there though.
Let's pull that back. But I think Sokka's storyline ended fine. I wish we could get more. In Korra, they don't dive into Sokka at all. I feel like they ignore him. And that's something...
Yeah, they do. You just see him like a couple of times.
And that's something that I think that they definitely probably should have touched on more. But that's something we'll save for Korra. But Sokka's storyline is taken care of. They find their dad. They rescue their dad from the Fire Nation prison. Everything's fine. It all works out. And Iroh forgives Aang. And together... Iroh forgives Zuko. And together, Zuko and Aang at the very end realize that a year ago they were entirely different people, but now they're friends, and they want to lead to the healing of the world after 100 years of war is finally over. And overall, it's just a great season finale. It's a great series finale. I have no issues with it. I think that it's done perfectly.
It wraps up everything into a tight bow and covers all its bases, and
except for one thing.
Well, it does set up for future stories. Where is my mother?
Yeah, so that's what we can talk for these last few minutes about really quickly. It leaves up a slight possibility, and people openly say, "Oh, this is something that was going to happen," but then they made the movie and they invested money into the movie, and season 4 never occurred. That's just a rumor, from what I understand. Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, also known by the fandom as Bright, the creators, openly have always said there was never plans for a season 4 that focused on Zuko's mom. They said that was never going to be the case.
The content was there, but I don't know if it was enough content to really sell at that point.
I feel like you beat the Fire Lord. If you wanted to resolve that storyline, you do a season 3 focusing on that and bring Zuko in on at that point and make like the Day of Black Sun the finale, and then you have season 4 be Air, where Aang beats the Fire Lord. But they did 3 seasons and called it a day, which is fine with me. But they did expand on that storyline in the comic books, which I know that you own and I'm assuming have read.
They do find their mother. Well, so pretty much what happens, long story short, is Zuko becomes Fire Lord, and the dad tells Zuko the situation of what happened with the mom. You know about that, right?
Yeah, that basically Ko, the face stealer from back in the day,
like they were going to kill Zuko.
Well, yeah, no, they reveal that in the Day of Black Sun. Yeah.
Yeah. So the mom left, disappeared. The face stealer spirit, which we only talked about a little bit. Like
because Ko is something that is really not touched on that much in this show.
True. Well, pretty much they end up finding her, but her face has been changed, and she like has no memories of anything.
Yep.
That's long and short of it.
Yeah.
But they do find her, and she's alive and well, and has like a new family.
Yeah, everything's fine. And that's kind of what goes into the expansion of Avatar, is the fact that, like, after this was over, they went along and made several comic books.
Yep.
I think they partnered with Dark Horse Comics, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And I believe in total there's 3 graphic novels that make up all of the storylines.
No, there's 5.
There's 5. Oh wow, there's a lot more than I thought.
And that's these are the combined volumes.
Yeah, so for
so
several
they got
years,
story.
yeah, for several years they had several comic book storylines that I'm sure are just as enjoyable. I haven't had the chance to sit down and read them. One day I know I will, but yeah, we continued their storyline, the Avatar, the Last Airbender storyline, through the comic books. And then, as we will discuss in future episodes, they move on to Legend of Korra, the next Avatar.
Which also gets continued in the books. I know they're currently working on a storyline. It hasn't finished due to kind of everything that's going on in the world right now. I'm very interested to checking that out.
Yeah, so, but we will discuss Korra another day. Korra's not as easy to find as
Boy, you bet we got it.
We got it. We have it. It's not going to be an issue for us to see it, but that's because we bought the DVDs and Blu-rays. But also, I think if you subscribe to CBS All Access, it's on there, and I think if you subscribe to the Nickelodeon channel on Amazon Prime, because Prime has all these different just random channels that'll give you extra stuff if you pay more money for it, you have access to all 4 seasons. But Korra is the sequel. Legend of Korra is the sequel series following the new Avatar, Korra, who is from the Southern Water Tribe. And as you all will learn, she is a very, very, very different character than Aang. I mean insanely different character than Aang.
Again, that goes into the reincarnation thing.
Yeah. So we'll discuss Korra and I don't know if we're gonna do a season by season discussion, because the Korra seasons are significantly shorter. But we might at least do. We could probably at least cut it into 2 different parts, because there is a distinct point where something happens, not in the show itself, but in how Korra was produced, that, in my opinion, makes a major shift in the series.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
So we'll discuss that in a couple of episodes, guys. But for now, couple of announcements. We have an Instagram page. If you guys.
Whoop.
If you guys would like to follow us, our Instagram page is AFP Pod, at AFP Pod on Instagram. Twitter page is also going to be made. Basically, it's going to be a chance for us to share clips of the show, try to get the word out a little bit more, and hopefully use that as a way to promote the episodes as well. So if you guys give us a follow, it'd be deeply appreciated.
Yep.
We also are going to start trying to have shorter episodes in between our longer posts. So we want to try to get more content out. Not every episode we're going to post is going to be an hour long like this one. But, like, for example, our thoughts on the PlayStation 5 announcement. We are going to do kind of, I guess, a mini-sode in a couple of days.
Coming soon.
For you guys to check out, where you can get your thoughts on that.
To a phone near you.
But yeah,
PlayStation, Clarence Stone, Shelby Lawhorn, they strike again.
But yeah, stay tuned.
Times the charm.
Stay tuned for that one, guys. We're going to be talking about that. In those little mini series, there's a couple of things we'll probably be discussing that are a lot more. They're shorter conversations, but good ones. Like Demon Slayer just ended. The manga ended, so we might talk about that. We might talk about what we're watching, things like that. That's a little bit different than our hour-long deep dives.
I'm interested.
So we hope that you guys keep listening. We hope that you've enjoyed our look back the past month on Avatar: The Last Airbender. We hope that you have enjoyed this show as much as we do.
Amazing show.
It's a great show. We stand by it. It's a perfect gateway into anime because it follows that style very, very well.
In all honesty, a lot of animes are gonna let you down after you watch Avatar. But it is a gateway technically.
But for now, that's gonna do it for us. My name is CJ.
I'm Shelby.
And this is A Fan's Perspective, signing out.
We'll catch you next time.